Good morning. Supply chain managers for manufactured products know that there is no getting around China. No matter what we're trying to buy or what we're trying to build, we learn that there is already a group of Chinese companies who are in a monopolistic position over a key raw material or a refining process or a logistics train or a sub-assembly. And if supply chain managers were told we have to cut China out of the chain, it means that our costs go way up, and there's still no getting around the raw materials problem. When our politicians and our officials and our regulators are telling us that they can enact a law or sign an executive order and somehow change these realities, they're lying. In the United States, we have two candidates for president, and both of them are telling us that they are going to remove our dependency on China to be the factory for almost everything we buy. Let's go through some data from our own Defense Department. This is a table of Chinese suppliers for American missiles and missile systems. The column at the left is the missile system. JASSM is a cruise missile. JDAM is Joint Direct Attack Munitions. Long-range anti-ship missiles are next. Then Tomahawk, which is a land attack missile. We've got Army, Air Force, and Navy missiles all here. Second column moving to the right is the main contractor for the system. So we see that Lockheed Martin at the top is a prime contractor for the JASSM and the anti-ship missiles. Then come the subcontractors for the different components: data links, electronics, general, propulsion, and so on. Then on the far right, we see how many Chinese suppliers there are for each component. Taking the top one again, there are 6 Chinese companies that provide data links, general systems components, and testing components. Next one down in that column, there are 350 Chinese companies that make electronics. And all the prime contractors are buying from this group of Chinese companies. If you add up all these companies on the right, there are over 1,500 Chinese companies that are making parts for our missile systems. These are things that our own government buys. What is the semiconductor war about? The idea is that we can deny Chinese access to American semiconductor chips so that China cannot use our chips in their weapons systems. That's what they say. The truth is the opposite. It's Chinese chips that are in our systems. Chinese semiconductors in critical military platforms. The latest generation aircraft carriers are the Gerald Ford class. Each of those needs over 6,000 semiconductors made in China. These are all naval vessels, by the way. WASP is a helicopter carrier used in amphibious operations. Need more than 6,000 Chinese semiconductors for each of those two. Nimitz is another aircraft carrier. Arleigh Burkes are guided missile destroyers. Need nearly 6,000 Chinese-made semiconductors to make those work too. Here's another ugly map, and the detail is too fine for video, so we'll link to the PDF in the description and you can read the reports and where they came from. The B-2 bomber, Minuteman missiles, and Ohio-class submarines, these are our nuclear weapons platforms. They make up the strategic triad of land-based, air-based, and submarine-based nuclear weapons. Patriot missile batteries are on the bottom, and those are our primary systems of missile interception. The middle of the chart is the authorized supplier to the Defense Department for the system. And on the right is the Chinese supplier for semiconductors. This is just semiconductor chips, mind you. Don't forget that China also has a supply chain monopoly for all the rare earth metals that we use in these systems. This is just the semiconductors. We cannot build a Patriot missile, for example, without the more than 60 Chinese companies that make semiconductors for it. If we surveyed 1,000 American citizens and we asked them, do you support an export ban on American semiconductors that can be used by the Chinese military? I promise you that about 100% of those people would say yes. Everyone would support that idea that we should not allow China access to the things they would need to build weapons. But the reality is the other way around. It's our weapons that don't work unless we have their semiconductors. So let's turn that situation around yet again. If we surveyed 1,000 Chinese citizens and asked them, do you support an export ban on Chinese semiconductors that can be used by the American military? I bet 100% of them would agree to that too. Because that's what the reality is. That without Chinese rare earths and magnets and propulsion systems and metals and materials and electronics and semiconductors, our bombers can't take off, our missiles can't fly, and our ships can't float. Between 2014 and 2022, U.S. dependence on China for just electronics increased by 7 times. When our money, no object Defense Department needs to build weapons, we shower them with money and we tell them to do whatever it takes. The Defense Department needs Chinese electronics to make weapons, and we have plenty of money for that. It's a national security issue. But if a young family wants to buy an affordable car made in China, sorry, that's a national security issue too. Perfectly okay for Raytheon and General Dynamics and Boeing to buy whatever they need from China. But if you want to buy something with a Chinese battery in it, the U.S. government says no. Be good.